In difficult times, our grandparents and their parents mastered the art of stretching every last scrap. Their kitchen ingenuity wasn't just about survival. It gave rise to unexpectedly tasty meals that history has mostly forgotten. These 25 poor man sandwiches may sound odd today, but they kept families going through economic hardship, war, and more. Get ready to rediscover some sandwiches you'll wish you'd known all along. This is the first one, the Bolognia Sandwich. Arguably the most legendary low-cost meal in American history. The humble Bolognia Sandwich earned its place as a lunchbox staple. Paper-thin slices of this processed meat layered between basic white bread, often topped with a dab of yellow mustard, filled the stomachs of school kids and factory workers across decades. In the 1930s, bologna was so affordable it gained a nickname, the poor man's steak, as beef became an unaffordable luxury for many. One slice could be spread across a whole piece of bread to give the illusion of plenty. The best versions were lightly fried, causing the edges to curl up into crispy cups, perfect for holding a touch of mayo or mustard. It wasn't the ingredients that made it special, it was the care. Some families would cut the edges to stop the curl, while others fried it to golden perfection. Bologna sandwiches weren't just about eating, they were about reassurance. In an era full of uncertainty, simply knowing there'd be a sandwich tomorrow brought comfort. But there's more to this sandwich's story than meets the eye. Wait until you see the next invention that turned making do into something surprisingly sweet. This is the second one, the sugar sandwich. When pantries were nearly empty, this makeshift dessert stepped in. 2 plain slices of bread, a light smear of butter or margarine, and a dusting of sugar created a treat that kids looked forward to. During the Great Depression, sweets were an impossible luxury, but parents got creative and made joy from almost nothing. The sugar sandwich was more than a snack. It was proof that love and imagination could fill the gaps when resources ran dry. The sugar sandwich quickly became a special treat, especially for birthdays or rewards when there was no money for a cake or candy. Some inventive families added a dash of vanilla extract or a sprinkle of cinnamon when available, turning this simple dish into something a little more festive. What stands out about this sandwich is the way it shows that even in the toughest times, parents found ways to bring small moments of happiness and normalcy to their children. For kids raised during the Depression, sugar sandwiches were not just a memory of hardship. They became a family tradition. Many of those children grew up to share the same treat with their own kids, not out of necessity, but as a way of connecting with their roots. Think that sounds straightforward? Wait until you hear what our grandparents came up with using just 2 basic ingredients for the next creation. This is the third one, the onion sandwich. Raw onions on bread may sound like a challenge, but it was a staple for many early 20th century workers. Inexpensive and available year-round, onions were a reliable source of flavor and nutrition when other foods were scarce. The secret to this sandwich was thinly slicing the onion, soaking the pieces briefly in cold water to take off the sharpness, and then drying them before placing them on buttered bread or drizzling them with a touch of vinegar. A sprinkle of salt and pepper completed the meal, which might have been simple, but packed a surprising punch of flavor. This sandwich was a favorite among coal miners and factory workers, its strong aroma keeping hungry co-workers away from their lunch. Not only was it filling, but the onions provided natural antibacterial benefits, helping to stave off winter colds. What started out a necessity became a beloved choice for many, and even today, some high-end chefs offer their versions of this simple yet flavorful dish. But the next sandwich on our list is even more unexpected, and it became so popular that even a famous rock star couldn't resist it. This is the fourth one, the mayonnaise and banana sandwich. It might seem strange today, but the combination of creamy mayonnaise and sweet banana slices was a cherished meal for many Southern families during tough times. The mayo offered a cheap source of protein, while bananas provided essential nutrients. Mothers in the Depression era would carefully slice bananas, layering them on white bread with just the right amount of mayonnaise to add creaminess without overwhelming the taste. The natural sweetness of the bananas was the star of this sandwich. Some families added a touch of sugar or honey on special occasions to make it even sweeter. Elvis Presley famously enjoyed a variation of this treat with peanut butter added, but the original version was simpler. The tangy creaminess of the mayo and the soft, Sweet banana slices formed a surprisingly harmonious blend of flavors that many remember fondly from childhood, even long after their situations improved. Southern food historian John T. Edge has highlighted this sandwich in his research on American cuisine, emphasizing how it reflects the creativity that arose from scarcity. For many, it became a reminder of resilience, and today, people who try it are often amazed by how well the tanginess of the mayonnaise complements the natural sweetness of the banana. But the next Depression-era sandwich takes simplicity to a whole new level. This is the fifth one, the Ketchup Sandwich. When pantries were nearly empty, the Ketchup Sandwich emerged as a humble but beloved snack. Just 2 slices of bread with a generous spread of ketchup between them became a comfort food for many kids. Despite its simplicity, the Ketchup Sandwich provided flavor and even a small amount of nutrition thanks to the tomatoes in the condiment. During the Depression, parents would toast the bread to make the meal feel more substantial. Some even added sugar to the ketchup, creating a sweet variation that resembled a dessert. School cafeterias in the 1930s occasionally served these sandwiches, and for many children, they became a cherished part of their childhood, even continuing to make them into adulthood. Andrew F. Smith, a food historian, writes in his book Pure Ketchup about how the condiment became particularly popular during times of economic hardship because of its versatility. It could stretch to become a meal, offering comfort and reminding people of simpler times. This is the sixth one, the lard sandwich. One of the humblest of poor man's sandwiches, the lard sandwich symbolized sheer survival. Simply spreading rendered animal fat on bread gave families calories when no other food was available. Rural communities, especially in Appalachia, depended on this simple yet essential meal. Depending on preference, the lard might be sprinkled with salt for a savory bite or sugar for a sweeter taste. Those who could afford homemade lard often preferred its flavor over store-bought options. Some even added a thin layer of molasses for a bit of sweetness on special occasions. This is the seventh one, the cucumber sandwich. What simple yet refreshing meal did families enjoy during the scorching summer months? You'll find out soon. The cucumber sandwich, while now often associated with fancy afternoon teas, actually originated as humble fare. Thinly sliced cucumbers between slices of bread were a welcome relief for workers enduring hot conditions when meat was out of reach. During the summer, families would make these sandwiches with fresh garden cucumbers, adding a light spread of butter and a pinch of salt. The cool, crisp bite offered refreshment on sweltering days, especially for farm workers. Some families would add dill or a bit of vinegar when they could get their hands on it. Unlike many other poor man sandwiches that were calorie heavy, the cucumber sandwich provided psychological relief. It offered the rare feeling of consuming something fresh and green, a sharp contrast to the heavier, starchier meals people typically ate. Food writer Elizabeth Sander points out that while the upper classes in Britain enjoyed these sandwiches as tea-time treats, Americans would prepare more substantial versions with thick cucumber slices and uncut bread, adapting to the social context of the time. But now, let's move on to the sandwich that celebrates the height of summer's bounty. This is the eighth one, the tomato sandwich. When summer's gardens yielded their rewards, the tomato sandwich became a cherished symbol of seasonal abundance in times of scarcity. Thick slices of garden-grown tomatoes placed between slices of bread, seasoned with salt and pepper, created a seasonal treat that cost little to make. Southern families often added a light smear of mayonnaise, while those in the Midwest favored butter instead. The key was using tomatoes that had been ripened under the sun, their juices soaking into the bread for a delightfully messy experience. During tomato season, families might eat this sandwich every day until the frost ended the tomato harvest. The excitement of the first summer tomatoes and the rituals surrounding this sandwich became a cultural marker in many rural communities. This simple meal was a symbol of both poverty and abundance. Southern food historian Ronnie Lundy has highlighted how, in Appalachia in the South, the first perfectly ripe tomato of the season was honored with nothing more than good bread, salt, and maybe a touch of mayonnaise. This is the 11th one, peanut butter and pickle sandwich. While sweet pickles were more common in areas with robust home canning traditions, the peanut butter and pickle sandwich earn a loyal following across the country. The contrast in texture, creamy, rich peanut butter paired with crunchy, tangy pickles, brought unexpected excitement to otherwise plain meals. Throughout the 1950s, this odd but satisfying pairing remained a staple, especially in rural communities where both items were inexpensive and readily available from pantries or home gardens. For many children of the Great Depression, this sandwich became a nostalgic favorite, evoking memories of simpler times. As they grew older, many kept enjoying the unique flavor combination, long after their economic situation had improved. In 2012, the New York Times rekindled interest in the sandwich by highlighting its presence in their archives dating back to 1938, solidifying its quirky but genuine place in America's culinary legacy. This is the 12th one, tuna salad sandwich. The rise of canned tuna in the early 1900s revolutionized affordable meals for struggling families. When blended with mayonnaise and sometimes chopped celery or onions, tuna salad became a way to stretch a modest portion of protein across multiple servings. During World War II, this sandwich gained patriotic status as an alternative to meat, which was heavily rationed. Military spouses, especially Navy wives, found creative ways to extend tuna salad with ingredients like relish or chopped boiled eggs. Tuna sandwiches were also common at church events and community potlucks due to their low cost and ease of preparation. They came to symbolize unity and resourcefulness, as neighbors shared recipes and strategies to nourish their families. Food historian Laura Shapiro notes that women's magazines in the 1940s promoted tuna as a smart, patriotic choice that supported the war effort, planting it firmly into everyday American life. This is the 13th one, fried Spam sandwich. Spam made its debut in 1937 and quickly became a dietary mainstay during the Depression and wartime shortages. Sliced thin and pan-fried until golden and crispy at the edges, Spam on bread was filling and dependable. Soldiers during World War II ate so much of it that they brought the habit home, where it stayed a favorite. Topped with mustard or mayonnaise, the fried Spam sandwich evolved from necessity into tradition. In Hawaii, Spam became embedded in local food culture during the military presence, spawning regional takes that still thrive today. With over 8 billion cans sold globally, according to Hormel Foods, Spam's journey from wartime survival food to worldwide icon is a story of resilience and reinvention. This is the 14th one, egg and sardine sandwich. When families needed to stretch protein as far as possible, the egg and sardine sandwich emerged as a high-nutrition solution. A mixture of mashed canned sardines and chopped hard-boiled eggs, often brightened with a splash of vinegar, delivered a powerhouse of omega-3s and protein, essential for workers performing hard physical labor. This is the 15th one, egg and sardine sandwich. This unusual duo gained special popularity in immigrant communities, particularly among those with deep-rooted European traditions of preserving fish. The sandwich offered more than convenience. It was practical fuel for factory laborers and miners who needed meals that could survive long hours in warm lunch pails and still provide substantial energy. Often enhanced with minced onion or chopped pickles when available, the mash of sardines and hard-boiled eggs wasn't just filling. It was nutritionally savvy. Long before scientists began touting omega-3s and complementary proteins, struggling families were instinctively creating meals that balanced health and hunger. Food historian Harvey Levenstein has highlighted how Americans were initially hesitant about tinned fish like sardines. But economic hardship during the Great Depression changed that perception, leading to broader acceptance through recipes like this one, meals that made the most of modest ingredients without sacrificing nourishment. This is the 16th one, Bacon Dripping Sandwich. How could the essence of bacon elevate an entire meal? Enter the Bacon Dripping Sandwich. In wartime, when pork was scarce and meat rationing strict, households made every ounce count. Bacon grease, poured off and saved in a tin near the stove, became culinary gold. Spread on slices of bread, sometimes with a pinch of salt and pepper, the cooled fat carried the rich, smoky flavor of bacon itself, providing the sensory illusion of a meat-filled meal when none could be spared. Some folks amped up the flavor with sliced green onions from their gardens or a dash of vinegar to offset the heaviness. Particularly in the rural South, this practice became a way of life, with bacon grease often saved and reused for generations, a ritual of thrift passed down through kitchens. Southern food scholar John Edgerton documented this practice in Southern Food, noting how saving bacon drippings was more than frugality. It was family tradition, born of necessity and seasoned with memory. This is the 17th one, Mayonnaise and Onion Sandwich. This humble sandwich proved that even the cheapest produce could become a satisfying lunch. Raw onions, sliced thin and sometimes soaked in cold water to mellow their sharpness, were layered with mayonnaise to create a sandwich bursting with flavor and practicality. Popular among Southern textile workers and Midwestern factory hands, this no-frill sandwich was affordable and packed enough punch to get workers through grueling shifts. A sprinkle of pepper or paprika added variety when supplies allowed. Labor historian Jefferson Cowie remarked how factory lunchrooms often carried the pungent scent of onions, a tribute to this thrifty, working-class staple that didn't need refrigeration and never pretended to be fancy. This is the 18th one, Bread and Milk Sandwich. Few Depression-era creations evoke such a mix of hardship and tenderness as the bread and milk sandwich. A sweet twist on survival, it turned the humblest pantry staples into something resembling dessert. In homes where proper sweets were rare luxuries, parents dipped slices of bread into milk, dusted them with sugar, and gently pressed them together, crafting a soft, sweet bite that felt like indulgence in a time of scarcity. Some added cinnamon when they could, giving the sandwich an almost cake-like feel, rich in comfort even if poor in ingredients. This sandwich didn't just feed children, it reassured them. In memoirs from the Great Depression, this simple creation appears again and again, not only as a last resort, but also as a symbol of a parent's care. In Studs Terkel's Hard Times, countless interviewees recall bread and milk combinations, meals and treats that became rituals of resilience in a world of want. The bread and milk sandwich served as edible proof that even the bleakest meals could carry warmth, sweetness, and love. This is the 19th one, Chicken Salad Sandwich. When a single chicken had to stretch across an entire week, the chicken salad sandwich often marked the final chapter of that bird's journey. After Sunday's roast and Monday's broth, the small leftover pieces were chopped finely and mixed with mayonnaise, perhaps a bit of celery, diced apple, or even chopped boiled egg, anything to make the mixture go further. This frugal spread could fill numerous sandwiches, feeding a family on minimal resources. In church halls and community gatherings, these sandwiches often appeared crustless and cut into neat triangles, transforming what was essentially scrap meat into something dignified. Chicken salad sandwiches symbolize cleverness in the kitchen and deep respect for the food one had, a refusal to waste even a morsel. Home economics scholar Caroline Hungerford has shown that wartime government pamphlets routinely outlined ways to stretch poultry over several meals, with chicken salad being the final, creative culmination. This is the 20th one, mock chicken sandwich. What happened when chicken wasn't available at all? Cooks turned to imitation. The mock chicken sandwich emerged from economic necessity, using ground bologna or other cheap processed meats, blended with crushed crackers and seasoned to mimic the flavor and texture of shredded chicken. It was clever, convincing, and much cheaper than the real thing. This is the 21st one, mock chicken sandwich. This clever imitation came surprisingly close to the real thing. The mock chicken sandwich used inexpensive ingredients to replicate the flavor and texture of traditional chicken salad, an essential workaround during wartime rationing. Factory cafeterias and school lunch programs often featured it, relying on finely ground bologna or beans, crushed crackers, and precise seasoning. Herbs like sage and celery salt gave the mix its poultry-like flavor, and a drop of yellow food dye sometimes added a convincing color, imitating the golden hue of actual chicken salad. Some cooks even skipped meat entirely, crafting a convincing spread using mashed white beans or chickpeas. What started as a substitute became a staple. Culinary historian Sarah Lohman has explored the legacy of imitation dishes in American cooking, noting that many, including mock chicken, gained devoted fans who saw them as nostalgic, thrifty comforts rather than mere replacements. The mock chicken sandwich stands as a tribute to kitchen creativity, a reminder that when faced with limitation, American cooks often chose reinvention over resignation. This is the 22nd one, ham and cheese sandwich. Today, it may seem ordinary, but the ham and cheese sandwich was once a study in food budgeting. During lean years, especially in the Depression, a single slice of deli ham and one piece of processed cheese could be stretched across several sandwiches. Mothers carefully layered them between slices of bread, sometimes adding lettuce or mayonnaise to make each portion feel more substantial. This combination wasn't just practical, it was nutritionally strategic. Ham and cheese together formed a complete protein source, essential during times when meat was scarce. In some households, cheese rinds were melted down into spreads that extended much further than individual slices. According to the National Historic American Food Project, James Kraft's invention of processed cheese in 1916 played a key role in this trend, offering longer shelf life and easier slicing, both vital for families trying to make ends meet. This is the 23rd one, chicken liver sandwich. When every part of chicken had to count, livers became a go-to for nutrient-dense sandwich fillings. Cooked, chopped finely with onions, and blended with mayonnaise, this rich spread packed protein and iron into a small, affordable package. Rural families especially leaned on this method, often adding chopped boiled eggs or relish to enhance flavor and stretch quantity. Nutritionist and food historian Marion Nestle reminds us that organ meats, once the backbone of American nutrition, delivered more vital nutrients than muscle cuts. In hard times, chicken livers became essential because they packed high levels of iron, vitamins, and protein into a portion small enough to fit on a sandwich. For families facing food scarcity, this rich spread served not just as sustenance, but as a form of survival. This is the 25th one, anchovy paste sandwich. When flavor had to go a long way, even a small squeeze of anchovy paste could transform a meal. This sandwich relied on that intense salty punch, often smeared lightly over buttered bread, and sometimes topped with a slice of hard-boiled egg when the household had one to spare. Despite its humble appearance, the anchovy paste sandwich packed a serious punch, both nutritionally and in taste. For many Mediterranean immigrant families, anchovy paste was a culinary lifeline, a way to preserve cultural ties through flavor. A dash of lemon juice or a few slivers of onion sometimes brightened the taste. But even plain, this sandwich satisfied deeply with very little. The pungent umami of anchovies offered omega-3s and flavor satisfaction in one compact bite. Food anthropologist Sidney Mintz wrote extensively about how immigrant foodways adapted to new surroundings. This sandwich is a perfect example, a taste of the old country repurposed in American kitchens to stretch flavor, dignity, and nutrition across multiple meals. This is the 26th one, curried egg sandwich. A touch of curry powder turned this Depression-era meal into a small luxury. The curried egg sandwich featured mashed hard-boiled eggs blended with a dollop of mayonnaise and just a pinch of curry, enough to infuse a complex, warm flavor. A mere quarter teaspoon could elevate several sandwiches, offering a sensory escape from the bleakness of daily struggle. Some cooks folded in finely diced onion or celery to add crunch. The golden hue of curry made the filling look more indulgent than it really was, creating a sense of richness from very little. Food historian Lizzie Collingham explains that curry powder entered American kitchens by the early 1900s, and by the 1930s, it had become a treasured pantry staple that allowed families to experience faraway flavors on the tightest budgets. This is the 27th one, radish sandwich. A humble springtime treat, the radish sandwich brought freshness and crunch after a long season of canned and preserved meals. As early garden harvests began to emerge, this simple sandwich celebrated nature's return. Thinly sliced radishes layered over a buttered slice of bread, sprinkled with salt, delivered a peppery, crisp bite that required almost nothing, and yet felt like a gift. Radishes were among the first vegetables to ripen in backyard gardens and victory gardens alike, thanks to their short growing cycle. Their fiery flavor paired beautifully with creamy butter, creating a contrast of heat and richness. Some home cooks added chopped parsley or chives for extra zest when herbs were available. More than a snack, the radish sandwich symbolized seasonal change, a reminder that winter's harshness was giving way to new life. Garden historian Thomas Mickey has noted that wartime gardening manuals encouraged first-time growers to plant radishes early, making this sandwich one of the first fresh meals many families enjoyed after months of scarcity. This is the 28th one, brown gravy sandwich. When a roast was gone but the drippings remained, resourceful cooks made every drop count. The brown gravy sandwich used slices of bread, often toasted, as a canvas to soak up rich, meaty gravy made from pan drippings extended with flour and water. Though simple, this dish provided all the savory satisfaction of a roast without needing the meat itself. Sometimes, if scraps of meat or leftover vegetables were available, they were stirred into the gravy for extra texture and flavor. Served open-faced and eaten warm, the brown gravy sandwich became a comforting and hearty meal for workers and families alike. Food historian Rachel Lorden explains that gravy, across many cultures, has long served as a tool to stretch meat flavor across days. In the case of the sandwich, it turned near nothing into something truly comforting, a meal built on memory and taste rather than volume. This is the 29th one, garden vegetable sandwich. At the height of summer, When backyard plots overflowed with produce, the garden vegetable sandwich took center stage. Juicy slices of tomato, crisp cucumbers, sweet onions, and whatever else the garden yielded were stacked generously on bread. No cooking required, just fresh veggies, perhaps a swipe of butter or mayo, and a pinch of salt and pepper. This is the 30th one, garden vegetable sandwich. These sandwiches thrived on produce that couldn't be bottled, canned, or stored. Fresh vegetables straight from the backyard garden. Sometimes a few tender lettuce leaves, or a handful of chopped basil or parsley were added for flair. But at its core, this sandwich was a fleeting seasonal celebration. It captured the bounty of a short-lived harvest in the middle of year-round scarcity. The garden vegetable sandwich stood for more than a quick lunch. It was a moment of indulgence during summer's brief peak. Agricultural historian Cynthia Clampett explains that even during the Great Depression and Dust Bowl years, families managed to maintain modest kitchen gardens. The result was a few precious weeks when fresh vegetables overflowed and sandwiches like these became edible rewards for months of patience. This is the 31st one, apple butter sandwich. When fresh fruit became a rare luxury, families turned to one treasured spread, apple butter. Made by simmering apples for hours with just a touch of sugar or molasses, this richly spiced preserve extended the taste of orchard harvests into the bleak winter months. Spread on as slices of bread, with real butter added when it could be spared, the apple butter sandwich was a sweet, deeply comforting bite. Often reserved for special occasions, Sunday treats, or after-school snacks. This sandwich held deep cultural roots. In Appalachian communities and across the rural Midwest, apple butter production was a communal event held each fall. Families would gather outdoors, cooking enormous kettles of apple butter over fire, creating enough to last through the year. Food historian and Mendelsohn notes that these traditions, brought by German immigrants, became vital food rituals in places where winters left pantries nearly empty. Known in some regions as apple kraut, the apple butter sandwich symbolized collective food resilience, how cooperation could preserve comfort through lean months. This is the 32nd and final one, toast and gravy sandwich. When bread neared the end of its shelf life, wasting it was not an option. The toast and gravy sandwich was born from this zero-waste mindset. Stale slices were toasted until crisp and then topped with creamy white gravy made from flour, fat drippings, and either milk or water, whichever was available. Served warm and open-faced, this dish turned scraps into satisfying sustenance. A favorite in the American South, the sandwich sometimes featured cracked black pepper or bits of meat if there were any leftovers to toss in. The contrasting textures of crunchy toast and velvety gravy created a comforting experience, more filling than its humble ingredients would suggest. Cafeterias across mid-20th century America served a version of this known as creamed toast, particularly in schools. Southern culinary historian Damon Lee Fowler has detailed how this dish, born out of necessity, endured long past its economic origins, becoming a staple on family tables, handed down as a beloved memory. These sandwiches tell a quiet story, one of resilience, resourcefulness, and heart. They reveal how ordinary people rose to extraordinary challenges, using creativity to make food not just edible, but meaningful. These humble combinations of bread and what little could be spared were more than meals. They were acts of love and survival. So, the next time your pantry feels limited, remember, the best meals don't always require much. Sometimes, history's tastiest answers lie in the simplest pairings. If this look into America's sandwich past inspired you, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories of forgotten foods and creative cooking. Until next time, remember, the best traditions often come from the hardest times.